is like
It's
a
happening,
rocket
people.
launch.
All right, we're live, man. Welcome to Hamadi Hump Day Special Edition for the presidential debate. And because we have a special guest this time, Dan Janjigian, who's our brother from another mother.
It's almost like we have three special guests.
What's up, fam?
Right, exactly. Three special guests. And I'll just apologize ahead of time if I have a naked child run across the screen here. We've got a couple of them taking baths over here.
Animal nudity.
Yeah, animal nudity. We're live streaming this, right? For those of you guys that are watching, we are going to play some presidential bingo. So there's a website that, in fact, I'll post it as a comment on Facebook here, so you guys can get your own card. If you hit this link, it'll scramble all the squares here, and you can see if you can beat us. But Russell, Dan, and I are going to be playing this pretty aggressively, so we'll see how this goes. And we got the debate here in the background. So we'll bring up the volume here. But Russ, any thoughts here? What do these candidates have to do tonight to get a win? Yeah. What are your thoughts?
This is one where I have extremely low expectations for the whole thing, mainly because America is so polarized. I don't know how many people are left to make up their mind. It's like, oh, you know what? I think I would vote for Biden, but I just want to see what Trump has to say. It's like, we all know what he's going to say. We had 4 years of him. I don't know. I think this election is really going to be about turnout more than people becoming convinced. And turnout is sort of like who has the most ballots. Not who can win over the other side. But unless there's like some really crazy moment where, maybe one large group of people looks at it and says, well, I now cannot vote for that person. And so that could happen, but other than that, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw something earlier today. I'm like, who is undecided at this point? Like, I can't decide. Like Trump better? Do I like Biden? I don't know. I don't know. I just, this is real head scratch. Hopefully one of these guys will say something tonight that'll help me make up my mind. So, Dan, what are your thoughts, man? Are you looking forward to any of these guys saying anything worthwhile or what?
I think what's going to happen is, in my opinion, if I was coaching both these candidates, I would want to see the Biden that we saw at the State of the Union. If I'm in Biden's camp, I think that guy brings a lot of energy and can help wash out a lot of the. I think most people that are classically Democratic, and I agree with what Russell said. I think everybody's kind of, they feel confident that they know what they're going to do, but I do think that there's a bigger amount of people right now that can be swayed from both sides. So I think from Trump's side, you're going to have to see a little bit more subdued, not as angry, and I think that is, at least from what I've read and what I've seen, I think that is a big turnoff to a lot of voters. I think some of the guys that are on the Republican side that would like to vote for Trump, I think they could be swayed away from him because of that. And on the Biden side, I think the major concern, because he's done great with a lot of the policy stuff and his team has done a great job, but I think the major concern is age. I think they if are we voting for Biden or are we voting for Kamala? Is Biden going to make it through 4 years? And so I think that's going to be the big concern on that side.
I don't know. Like, I don't think just from watching Biden's performance so far, I don't think the first Biden term, assuming there's a second, I don't think the first Biden term had Biden in charge of much of anything. Like he'll even end press conferences like, well, they won't let me take any questions. It's like, who's they? Like, what are you talking about?
Who's they?
So, yeah, the way I see it is, you have like a very strong, very large executive branch, and you have secretaries of each division. Those whatever. I can't even think of my mind went blank. Who are very powerful, and they kind of control that, the cabinet. And so basically you just kind of let each cabinet member run their thing the way they want to, and there's sort of nobody in charge above them. So that's why you'll have a lot of like really weird messaging come out, or it doesn't seem like there's any coordination between these departments. And maybe you don't need it. And so it's like, hey, let's just have the thing kind of run itself. Wind it up, and you got like the old man coming out to ring the gong, every hour. That's really all Biden's job is. He's not really in charge of anything. Like, go take a nap during the day, eat your mashed potatoes, and let everybody else, or ice cream. He's into ice cream, and just let the system run itself.
Right.
So I think what you're voting for Biden is not like Biden, right? Because he's not there, right? That guy's gone. He hasn't been there for 15 years or so. Like, if you take a look at some of his debate stuff, because he's been running for president forever. Like, you look at his stuff from the 90s. The guy's like or the 80s, where he's just like so energetic and like so we laugh about him having speech impediment. He doesn't have a speech impediment. The guy's an amazing speaker when he was able to do it, and now it's like you're not voting for Biden. You're voting for sort of the machine to continue running as it has.
The team, right. The team, voting for the team.
Yeah, and if you like the way the machine runs itself, then vote for the guy who won't try to change anything or exert any control over it. Just let it kind of do its thing, which I think is fine. I think it's a fine reason to vote for him. Like, I don't think I wouldn't begrudge anybody that. It's not a real president. That's okay.
One thing about tonight, supposedly, is they have no audience. So it's literally just the moderators and them in the room.
No cheering.
No cheering, right? Exactly. So and no playing to the crowd. So it's amazing how much of this like they orchestrated it to try to like press an advantage, I guess. But and then the other thing is they are muting people's mics. So if it's not your turn to speak,
can't say anything.
You won't be heard. Well, you could try to interrupt, but and they were demoing it earlier on CNN. I don't know if you saw it, but I was kind of like keeping an eyeball on it earlier today. They were like, "Oh, this is how the stage works. I'm standing here, where and they, one guy is talking and the other guy tries to interrupt, and you can barely hear some faint sound, getting picked up by the ambient.
It's not going to work.
Yeah. So, but I heard somebody say, well, actually, that probably works in Trump's favor because he's going to look like less of a dick,
It's like he's so controlled. Did such a great job.
Oh, here we go, man. 30 seconds.
It's happening.
That is on.
Hey, isn't this the earliest we've had a debate?
It is the earliest.
Yeah, I thought I read that somewhere. It is by a fair margin, right? By like a month or two. Man, I still sad they didn't let RFK Jr. into it.
He would have been interesting, man.
It would have been actually a real debate, I think.
He's hard to understand even with a mic, though. Oh, got that thing going with his voice.
Yeah, because of the injury.
All right, here we go. Let's see what these guys.
Current U.S. president will debate the former U.S. president as their party's presumptive nominees of the first in American history. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world to our studios in Atlanta. This is the CNN presidential debate.
Boom. This debate is being produced by CNN and is coming to you live on CNN, CNN International, CNN.com, CNN Max, and CNN Espanol.
And the Hamadi Hump Day podcast.
Yeah, we're getting copyright striked. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm trying to actually add this to my live stream, and I don't know how to take it live.
You can share it actually directly from Facebook. It's public. You can share it out on your profile.
Anchor of CNN.
I'm trying to do it right now.
Dana and I will co-moderate this evening. Our job is to.
Oh yeah, you can. Each of you guys can actually stream
the two candidates
the two outlets.
Before we introduce them, we want to share the rules of the debate with the audience at home. Former President Trump will be on the left side of the screen. President Biden will be appearing on the right. A coin toss determines their positions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question and 1 minute each for responses and rebuttals. An additional minute for follow-up, clarification, or response is at the moderator's discretion.
When it's time for a candidate to speak, his microphone will be turned on. and his opponent's microphone will be turned off. Should a candidate interrupt when his microphone is muted, he will be difficult to understand for viewers at home. At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes for closing statements. There is no studio audience tonight. Pre-written notes, props, or contact with campaign staff are not permitted during the debate. By accepting
Oh, you
Did you
can't
get
phone
the
a
questions in
friend?
advance,
both
though?
candidates
You
and
can't
their
phone a
They get
friend?
leaked?
agreed to accept these rules.
Now,
I'm gonna need some
I
help
think
with
I'm live on my. I
46th
think I'm live on
President
my
of the
screen
United
as well here.
States, Joe Biden.
Awesome.
Oh, it's not the real one. They sent out the doppelganger.
Well, you gotta have your days, right? You gotta have your.
Yeah,
And
he's
please
the
welcome
fake.
the 45th President of the United States.
Tell
So
the
I
nose
hear
is different.
too, they debated whether or not they were going to shake hands before, and apparently they've opted to not shake hands.
Why would they?
Screw
Why would you
you,
shake
I ain't
hands with
shaking your
Hitler?
hand.
Gentlemen, thank
My
you so much
gosh,
for
look at
being here.
that.
Let's begin the
Come
debate,
on.
and let's start with the
I love
issue
it.
that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And
More
typical
like
home
200.
have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president, what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. Pandemic.
We
was
got
so
the
badly
inflation
handled.
blame game.
Many people were dying.
Yeah.
All he said
Whose
was,
fault is
"Nothing
it?"
serious, just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right." The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out a position where
15,000.
800,000 new manufacturing jobs, but there's more to be done.
15,000
like a-
jobs.
Working
That
class
sounds
a lot of
people
jobs.
are terrible.
A lot of
They should
I
jobs.
come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of household.
It's a lot of jobs in
where the
Tyler,
kitchen
Texas.
tables, things weren't able to be met during the month. Of
That is Tyler, Texas.
the price of eggs, the
No.
price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. That we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over.
Ooh, we're capping
Combination
rents now.
of
Rent
those
control for the
different
world.
companies in
How
our
nice.
company right now.
Works great in New
In
York.
addition to that, we're in a situation where
For the
if you
tenants.
take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all.
I'm so curious how this is going to play with Trump not being able to talk when it's not his turn.
And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had.
He's mastered the art of making faces, though.
Now we brought down the price.
gotta
of
learn how to do it.
drugs.
I don't agree with anything he's saying. He's
For $15
crazy.
for a insulin shot as opposed to $400.
And that gives a whole new meaning to RBF right there.
$200 for any drug, all the drugs they can.
That is, look at that. He's got both sides down.
And we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price of around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you. President Trump?
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID. And when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than
not on there.
COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible.
It's probably
The
on
only
some of them.
jobs he created are for
They're
illegal
random.
immigrants and bounce back jobs, the bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you. President Biden?
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks we have the greatest economy in the world. And, the fact of the matter is that we found ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy.
Need some more Mountain Dew,
The
man.
largest tax cut in
It
American
looks,
history.
Yes.
dude looks so feeble.
Deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began. since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant in the military. You know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was
We
president,
left.
we still find ourselves in a
I did
position
that.
where you
Yeah.
had a notion that
We do that.
Let's walk
Yeah.
out. You can have the guns, Taliban.
truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have any this decade that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world
This
like
century.
he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
Am I allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10%
And I know you
tariff on
will.
all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cause countries that have been China and many others, in all fairness.
China.
Force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down and then they bounced back. And he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as
there you
Afghanistan
go. Worst
concerned,
in
I
history.
was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out
Only
with
King of
72
superlatives this guy.
with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt. Well, so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with.
He gave him an unbelievable situation.
Gave him something
This
great.
whole thing is
Remember,
unbelievable.
More people died.
Reminds me of
under
that scene in
his
Swingers.
administration,
You know, you are
even though
unbelievable.
we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation.
I wonder if there's a kind of a technique, instead of saying a bad job,
to go after his political
he says
opponent.
poor
All
job.
of the things
You're
he's done,
poor,
we've become
poor,
like a
you're
third
poor.
world nation.
Like, I
And
wonder
it's
if there's a,
the damage he's done to our country.
maybe it's a better
and I'd
word
love to ask him,
than,
and will, why he allowed millions of people to come
I'll tell you what,
from
dude. People
prisons, jails, and
bash on
mental
Trump all the time. I
institutions
mean,
to come
he's
into our
rhetorically
country and
a
destroy
genius,
our
man.
country.
The words that he
President
picks
Trump, we will get to immigration
are for a
I can-
later in this
if you can
block.
somehow
President
like
Biden, I
connect
wanna give you an
Biden
opportunity to
poor,
respond to
poor,
this
poor,
question.
poor in our life.
poor. Yeah, poor.
I
Yeah.
don't want to be
He
poor.
had the largest national
Poor
debt
Steve.
president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, he got $2 trillion tax cut, benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where
What number is it again?
2%.
What
Thousandaires.
Mountain Dew,
They
Joe?
just paid
What Mountain Dew?
Thousandaires.
25%. Either one of those
Thousandaires.
numbers. They've raised $500 million billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue
Elder
to
care, yeah, they need some of that
strengthen our
right now.
healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single
I like some
solitary
Pediacare.
person
Pediacare, there you go.
eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the
Wait, so
with,
we're gonna spend more money?
dealing with
Right.
everything we have
Yeah,
to do
just
with
print it, man.
He's, he's only spent half of what Trump spent. Come on,
If
give him time.
Right.
we
Those
finally
are rookie
beat
numbers.
Medicare,
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security.
Man.
These millions and millions of people
Right.
coming in,
Not the
they're
president.
trying
This
to
man.
put them on Social
This
Security.
man.
He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America.
Some of them,
We
I'm
no
sure,
longer
are good
respect
people.
it. They don't like us.
Well, there's good
We
people
do
on both sides.
everything They
Right,
want,
both
and
sides, yeah, there you
they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Criminal.
Thank you, President Trump.
Speaking of
Dan?
criminals,
This
Oh,
is
yeah,
the
he's
first
gonna-
presidential
that's bait.
election
That's
since
bait.
the Supreme
Yeah.
Court overturned Roe v. Wade.
you're like, please hit
This
me with it.
morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho,
In Idaho.
despite that state's restrictive
No,
ban.
Idaho.
Former President Trump
Idaho?
take credit for the decision to
No.
overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion bill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex, but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans,
Without
liberals,
exception.
conservatives. Everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted.
Now,
10 years ago or so, they
is this
started
the
talking
smartest
about how many weeks and how
line
many
for
this,
him to be
getting
playing
into
right now?
other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world,
He's
the
got to
most
do it,
respected,
man, because
wanted it
they're going to
brought
beat
back
him to
the
death
states.
with
I
it.
did
The
that.
general.
Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we
What the hell is
brought
he
it
talking
back
about?
to the states, and the country
There's
is
something
now
that came up in
coming
the
together on this issue.
Virginia
It's been a
governor's
great thing.
debate.
Thank you.
They asked him
think
about
that's a-
abortion.
Terrible thing.
That's a WTF anecdote
The
right
fact
there.
is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And
No.
that's
That's
this
false.
idea that they're all against it. It's just
No,
ridiculous.
no WTF.
And
No,
this is the guy who
There's
set
plenty
the
of people
stage.
who agreed with the outcome.
We're in a state where
They
in
thought that
6
it was
weeks,
the right decision, but the
you
reasoning
know you're
behind it
pregnant
was
or not,
all
but you cannot
super
see a
goofy,
doctor,
super
have your
weird.
and have
Like
a
no
hearing
one liked
society
the
on
reasoning
what
behind
your
it.
circumstances are. when
Yeah,
you
but
need
you're
help.
talking
The
about
idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're gonna
legalese,
turn
like,
civil
oh, is that
rights
a
back to the
properly
states.
reasoned
Let each state
decision?
have a
It's like
different
at the
rule.
end of the day, like
Look, there's
nobody,
so many young women who have been,
Well,
including
no,
the
I
the
mean,
average American at the
murdered,
soup
and
counter doesn't
he
care
went
about.
to the funeral.
Did these jurists
The
use the
idea
proper
that
theory?
They just want
she
to know,
was
like,
murdered
do I have the
by-
right or
by-
not have the right?
by an immigrant coming in. They talk about that.
Don't you think?
Here's the deal. There's a lot of
I mean,
young
it sets
women who
weird
are
precedents, and then you have to follow those. And then it's like you sort of gift the next generation a giant mess that they have to
It's
unwind.
ridiculous.
So
And you
I
can
think
do
I
nothing
think the
about it.
reasoning does
And they
matter.
try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
And it's not just like a yes or no.
There have been many
When they
young
invented the
women
trimester
murdered
system
by the
out of
same
nothing,
people he allows
there's
to come to
there's no
our border.
medical
We have
reason
a
for it.
border
They
that's
just
the
invent
most
it because
dangerous place
there's
anywhere
no
in the world.
legislative
Considered the most dangerous place
background for it,
anywhere in the
anything.
world. And he opened
And
They
it
need
it's
up
somewhere
to
to draw these
illicits
lines,
coming
man.
into our
They invented the
country,
lines on the
and they
highway
are
too to keep
raping
people out of
and
accidents.
killing women.
Yeah.
And it's a terrible thing. As far as
Cars are
enforcement is concerned,
inventions. I
it is
don't
now
think
back
babies
with
are.
the states are voting. And in many cases, it's frankly a very
Trump
liberal decision. In many cases,
is literally
it's the
taking his metal bat and swinging for the
voting,
legs. It's
and
crazy.
bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But
Yeah, the
they would
founders
have-
didn't know anything about
everybody
abortions.
wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back.
I
was
mean,
the
hey, at
one
least
to
he's
do
owning
And
it.
Again,
I
this
mean,
gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it.
Yeah,
Rather
but he's
than
also, he's
acknowledge
also
wanted it.
lying about all these other
Staying
people.
on the
It's
topic of abortion, President Biden,
crazy.
7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal
Look at
restriction
Biden's face.
on how far into a pregnancy a
Where
woman
am I
can
again?
obtain an abortion.
Yeah.
Do you support any legal
There's
limit
gonna be a lot of
on
memes
how
over this
late a
guy's
woman
face.
should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. First time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between
So
the doctor.
what Biden
between
should
the
know
woman and the state.
is that Roe v.
The
Wade was
idea that the
overturned in the
politicians-
90s by
the-
Planned
the
Parenthood v.
founders wanted the
Casey.
politicians
So there
Right.
is no
to be the
Roe v.
ones
So
making decisions about women's
so the
health.
trimester, this
It's
thing he's saying, oh, I support
It's
this, I
a
support
last-
this.
no
It
It's
doesn't
a
even
branding
exist.
exercise, bro.
A
Well,
doctor should
no,
be
but like the
making
The whole
trimester
thing
thing
is.
That's how it
was
should be run.
removed in
That's
Casey.
what you're going to do. And if
Like
I'm elected,
like
I'm
what
gonna
he's talking
restore
about
Roe
is
v.
just
Wade.
has no reflection on
We
reality.
can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen.
What is he
Democrat or
talking about?
Republican, nobody wants it to happen.
So he's talking about
That is simply not
D and X
true.
abortions.
The Roe v. Wade does not
The
provide.
baby
for that.
is born.
That's not the circumstance.
Trigger
Only
warning.
the woman's life
Baby is
in danger.
born.
She's going to die. That's the only
uh,
circumstance in which that
Breech.
can
It's
happen.
breech delivery.
But we are
So
not for
legs
late-term
first,
abortion, period.
and then
Period,
while the
period.
head is still in the
The Roe
birth
v.
canal,
Wade,
you
have
pierce the back of
late-term
the skull
abortion.
with
You
scissors,
can do whatever you want, depending on
and then
the
take
state. You can do whatever you want.
vacuum tube
We don't think
and
that's a good thing. We
evacuate,
think it's a
suck out
radical
all the
thing. We
brains,
think the Democrats are
collapsing
the
the
radicals,
skull,
not the Republicans.
and then
51
the
years,
body
that
is
was
then
all.
removed.
51
So
years,
the
Constitutional
baby is
Scholars
all
said
the
it was
way
right
out
way to
except
go.
for the head.
51
You're
years,
done.
and it was taken away
Ready
because
to
this
go.
guy put very
And
conservative
that's what he's
members on
talking
the
about.
Supreme
And that is a
Court.
real
Mhm.
Takes
procedure that
credit
is
for taking
currently
it away.
legal in several
What's he
states,
gonna
including
do?
Colorado.
What's he going to do? In fact, if
In what
if
cases,
the
though?
Ma-
Like to
MAGA
save the life of the
Republicans
mother?
he gets elected,
It's elective.
and
No,
MAGA
there's no
Republicans
saving life of the
control
mother
Congress,
because the
and they
baby's already
pass a
born.
universal ban
There's
on abortion.
there's
period,
there's
across the
no
board.
I
At
mean
6
all
weeks,
the
or
dangerous
7
stuff's already
weeks, or 10
passed.
weeks, something
Yeah, I
very,
think I don't know how
very
Eric feels, but
Is he
I
gonna
can say
sign
very
that bill?
comfortably that
I'll
I am not
veto
okay
it.
with that.
He'll sign it.
Yeah, of course
Thank
not.
Let's turn now to the issue
Of course not.
immigration and border security.
I would just be
A
curious
record
to know
number of
in
migrants
what
have illegally
circumstances is
crossed the
that
southern
ever
border on
done,
your watch.
and
Overwhelming border
They're
security
rare,
and
but they're
overburdening
legal
cities such as
in
New York and
in some
Chicago, and in
states.
some cases,
And that's
causing real
that's the
safety
stuff
and
he's
security
talking
and then
about.
people use that to
Given
portray
that,
like,
why
oh,
should
well, these
voters
people
trust
want to
you
kill
to
babies.
solve this
You know,
crisis?
like
Well,
Because we worked very
you
hard
know,
to get a bipartisan
there are people
agreement
marching
that
in the
not
street
only
to protect
changed
it
all of that, but made sure
and
that we
protect
are
that
in a
procedure. And
situation
so some
where
people,
you had
yeah, they
no
consider that
circumstance
a
where they could come
sacred
across
right.
the border with the number of border police
well,
there are now.
we have a
This
unanimous
significantly
agreement on this
increases the number
panel.
of asylum asylum
That's a
officer.
no.
By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed me, endorsed my position. In addition to that, we find
Oh,
ourselves
we
in a
moved on.
situation
The
where
border.
when he was president, he was separating babies.
Do we have one? Oh, border crisis. I got to click that.
cages,
Sorry.
making sure they were the
Oh, you have
families
border
were
crisis
separated.
on yours?
That's not the right
I
way
do.
to go.
Oh,
I feel like
I've
that's
done
an easy
since
one,
I've
though.
There in the
changed
corner.
the law.
I got border crisis.
I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where
We have one.
40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do.
I don't know how
on
you can
border
claim that
control
it's better
or
under him.
Oh, it is.
asylum.
Trump.
President Trump?
According
I
to
really
what
don't know what he
metric?
said at the end of this.
What's
I don't think
better?
he knows what he said either. Look, we had
The border
safest
now?
border in the history of our
Right.
country.
That's what he just.
But
Biden just
all he
said.
had to
Oh,
do
yeah,
is
it's a
leave
lot
it.
better.
All he had to do is leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are
Yeah, borders are
from
immoral.
prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now. All terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world. They're pouring in, and this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation.
This
I said,
guy.
close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president.
I won't say that.
Speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history.
Well,
Now we have the
actually,
worst
yeah,
in history
Border Patrol
because
did
never been
endorse
anything
Biden.
like it. And
So I don't
people
know.
are
Again,
dying all
what
over
is
the
he
place,
talking about?
including the people that are coming up in
Thank you, President
caravans.
Trump. President Biden?
Biden's
The
like,
only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al Qaeda person coming in his administration, killed three American soldiers, That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history,
That's a terrible
unquote.
idea.
Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens?
No, you
and
need those
including
people
who
here
have
to
lived
keep
here for
wages down,
decades?
man.
And if so,
You
how will you
cannot
do
get
it?
rid of them.
Just 1 second. He said we killed three people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the two greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the
I
world.
love how he says
And it had a huge
al-Baghdadi.
impact on everything, not
Baghdadi.
just border, on
Baghdadi.
everything.
You got to bag the
He's the one
daddy.
who killed
That
people in
guy
the
was a
border,
bad
including
daddy.
hundreds of thousands of
I don't
people
have the
dying,
terrorism
and also
card.
killing
Does
our
anybody have the
Look at it. I
terrorism
think
card?
Biden's going to rush him.
We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people
A
in New
rat's
York, in
nest.
California, and every state in the union because we don't have borders anymore.
Yeah, it's amazing
Every
how
state
terrorism
is
just
now a
kind of,
border.
I mean, this whole bingo
And
card,
because
no
of his
terrorism on here.
ridiculous,
That was
insane,
like the
and very
thing just 10
stupid
years ago.
policies, people are coming in
You
and
know,
they're killing our
Pepperidge Farm
citizens at
remembers.
a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a
Is that
level
a new
that we've
nickname?
never seen before.
New
And
nickname.
you're reading it like
Okay.
these three incredible
We'll
young
click the new
girls over
nickname
the
over
last
that one.
few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother.
I call
And
it.
he just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, or we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our
Oh, my
veterans.
God.
Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved, choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved. They abandoned.
So I don't know anything
We
about the
have by
VA
far
stuff.
the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by
Thank you,
allowing
President Trump.
all of these people to come in. And
President
it's a
Biden?
very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. and his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits. Came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in
Oh, we got it right this time.
France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died.
A lot of
I
syllables in
went to
that
the
word.
World War II cemetery.
Well, he often
World War I
changes
cemetery,
the
refused to go
method
there.
of his
He
son's
was
death.
standing with his 4-star general,
So
and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump.
ooh, angry Biden.
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery?
We have
or
19 people that said I didn't say it.
Because nobody's taking.
How do you do that?
I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up.
It's funny because I can say you didn't say it either. I didn't hear it.
Nobody care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others,
when did
say,
you stop beating your
suckers
wife,
and
sir?
losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me.
Yeah,
It was
people
made
that
up
were
by
there.
him, just like Russia was made up, just like
Ooh.
the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking.
Are you
It's the same
34
thing.
counts made up?
51 intelligence.
I got to say
agents
this
said
though. Trump
that
definitely
laptop
doesn't
was
sound like he's
Russia
lost his step,
disinformation.
even though I
It
don't
wasn't.
agree with
That
hardly
came from
anything he
his
says,
son,
and I know he's
Hunter.
lying about everything.
It wasn't Russian
He
disinformation.
just got
He
the
made
energy, and
up
he's got the,
suckers and
he's very
losers.
quick on his
He
feet.
should apologize to me right
Yeah,
now.
he doesn't seem too
4-star
crazy, which he
General
has the
Shannon
last couple
Desai was on your staff who said you said it.
of clips I've
Period.
watched from
That's number one.
the rallies and
And
whatnot.
number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now.
That's what we did in
Doing
Afghanistan.
more
Oh,
for
wait.
veterans than ever before in our history.
All right. Thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with
foreign
Russia's
policy.
war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year.
No
Are we getting a
Ukraine
Putin
on
one?
this bingo card either.
Russian
Putin?
President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the
Got it.
Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander in chief.
I'd like to speak for all our veterans now,
that we've ever had. They can't stand him.
having dodged the
Let's
draft
get that
myself.
straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And
Unbelievable.
that's based on every single bit of
Even
information.
Biden smiling.
As far as Russia and Ukraine,
That's
if
the
we
best
had
thing he
a
could have done.
The president
Yeah,
that knew
I mean, what
that
else
was
can you do,
respected
man?
by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers.
He's
and
got a point on
38
this one.
soldiers were obliterated.
That was a
And by the way,
disaster.
we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind.
There's people holding on to the helicopters as they
He said,
I
Lift it
know,
off.
dude.
I
The
think we're
images
gonna go
just,
in
I mean,
and
you can play
maybe
that.
This was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life.
Malarkey.
Malarkey.
He's a man of the people.
Iran attacked American troops.
Come on, man.
Kill
Exactly.
Did he say, come on, man? Did he say it?
No, he
a
didn't.
number of
Oh.
these troops, and he did nothing
Come on,
about
dude.
it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, We got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we find
Yeah, we got a
ourselves
lot
in a
out.
situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want, do whatever you want, and that's exactly what Trump did. To Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. Wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I
if
never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
Acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything.
He's the George Washington.
Like, hey, good on him, you know.
We're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending. It should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled.
Oh,
People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly.
How could you even? I mean, you know,
I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast.
that's a good. That's a freebie.
or taking office.
Yeah,
Like,
I'll figure this out.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people.
Is that convicted criminal?
He made one thing
No.
clear. He wants to
War
reestablish
criminal.
He's not convicted.
part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then
I don't know, if
think
you're
you stop there,
leading a
If you
country
could
that big,
stop
I mean, don't you
when
just automatically
if
become a
you
war
take
criminal?
Ukraine,
Like,
what do you think happens
think
to Poland?
Bush and
What do you
Obama
think
were
happens
both
to
war
NATO?
criminals.
What do you think happens
Bush
to those NATO
definitely.
countries?
I don't see
But-
them being
You want a
prosecuted
war,
for it.
You ought to find
Like
out
Danny
what
Ocean
he's gonna
says,
do
as you
if he
say,
does-
ma'am, I was never
if in fact
charged.
he does what he says and walks away.
Exactly.
By the way, all that money we give Ukraine from weapons we make here in
You
the
were
United States, we give
implicated,
them
but
the
never
weapons,
charged.
not the money at this
As you
point.
say, I was never
And,
charged.
and our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine.
See,
as we have.
this is the thing.
That's
The
why
funding for the
that's why
war
we're
in Ukraine is actually just
Thank you.
giant
Moving on to
uh,
the Middle East.
in
October,
stimulus for the
Hamas
military-industrial
attacked Israel,
complex.
Right.
killing more than 1,000 people. And
They're not
taking
sending money;
hundreds
they're
of
sending
hostages.
stuff that we
Among those
manufacture.
held and
So,
thought to
Right.
still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a
Economic
humanitarian
hitman,
crisis
dude, 101.
in Gaza.
mhm.
President Biden,
Great book.
you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released
You know, Israel's not on
the
my
remaining
bingo
hostages,
card
and
either.
Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one, they're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened in Israel? We're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well
You know,
in populated areas. They kill a lot
In
of
Northern
innocent people.
Ireland,
We're providing
there are
Israel with all
giant
the weapons they
posters
need and when they need them.
with
And by the way,
Joe Biden with
I'm the
blood on
guy
his
that
hands
organized the
that
world
say,
against
you
Iran
know,
when
say
they had a
no to
full-blown
genocide, Joe.
intercontinental ballistic missile attack
Wow.
on Israel. No one was hurt.
Like
No
huge
one
murals
Israeli was
in favor of the
accidentally killed,
Palestinians,
and it just
and like
stopped.
Israel
We
is,
saved Israel. We
you
are the
know,
biggest
committing genocide and
producer
all that stuff.
of support for Israel of anyone.
So it's
in
it's
any
very
way.
interesting.
And so they're 2 different things.
Genocide Joe.
Hamas cannot be allowed
Wow.
to continue.
Say no to
We continue
Genocide
to
Joe?
send
Is
our
that it, huh?
experts
Yeah.
and telling people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent 100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that.
Going out
He's
of
getting
business.
all. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to go.
Whoa.
He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because
Wonder
he's
what
an
your
urban
Northern
Palestinian.
Ireland people would say about that.
President Biden, you have
Finish
a
the
minute.
job,
I've never
man.
heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to
Foolishness.
get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The
I don't know.
idea that we have our strength lies in our alliances as well.
No, it's
It
in
may
our
be a big
diversity.
ocean, but we're able to avoid
Diversity
a war
is
in
our strength.
Europe, a major war in
Diversity.
Europe. What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places.
I don't think that's what's going to
happens
happen.
now. He has
Yeah.
no idea what the hell he's talking about.
I mean, if
And
they
by
wanted to
we got
invade
50
Poland, they could
other
have done that a
nations
long
around
time
the
ago.
world to
Yeah.
support Ukraine, including Japan and South
The
Korea.
reason they
I don't
invade
think Poland-
Ukraine is because they're not a NATO
This
member.
is-
It's an easy
this fact,
target.
This location has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
Trump does have a point, though. I
President
mean,
Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation
know,
of an independent
a lot easier
Palestinian
to
state in order to
invade
achieve
when
peace in the
Biden's
region?
I'd have to
doesn't
say,
know,
but
like,
before
you
we
know.
do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, no, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this. I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question. Would you guard us against Russia? At a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time. And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position.
Is that
we're paying
mentions
everybody's
non-existent person or
Let's turn to
place?
the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you
I
about
feel like that
January
should
6,
count.
2021.
I like it, though.
After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to
Oh,
stop
Jan
the
6.
constitutionally
Doesn't
mandated
say it yet.
counting of votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote,
He's
preserve,
gotta say
protect,
January
and
6th.
defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th? And
Ah, thank
I
you.
don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th.
There it is
On
again.
January 6th,
Again.
we had a great quarter. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were
And again.
energy independent. On January 6th, we had the
And
lowest
again.
taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On
But see,
January
very
6th,
clever,
we were
man.
respected
He's
all
like,
over
oh,
the world.
you want January
All
6th?
over
I'm
the
taking
world,
it
we're
back.
respected.
I take it back.
And then he
He did the
comes
same thing
in,
with fake
and
news.
we're
That
now
started
laughed
as a
at. We're
Democrat
like
thing,
a bunch of stupid
calling
people.
these Republican talking points
What
fake news, and
happened
he
to
just
the
took
United
it. You know,
States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization,
I would love to go back to
which I'm sure
January
at some
6th
point you'll be
because
talking
yeah,
about,
better economy.
where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of, in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what?
It'll be
That's a lot of
wild.
people coming. You could
It'll be
feel it.
wild.
You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her, and she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up to Capitol Hill, number one.
Yep.
I sat
Peacefully.
in the dining room off the Oval
That's
Office.
code
I sat
for
there
smash
3
the
hours,
windows.
3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop.
That is true, man. 3
Instead,
hours.
They talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. You know, they've been convicted.
He's going to pardon
He
them.
says he wants to commute their sentences.
I mean,
and say that no,
dressing up
even
and
if the
smashing
best people
stuff
in the nation,
is very
I don't know how many
American.
cases, scores of cases.
Dude,
including
don't
Supreme
forget
Court.
smearing poop on the
And
walls.
they said no,
Poo-poo.
this guy
Poo-poo.
is responsible.
But poo-poo on the
I'm just
walls,
thinking
dude.
like
Every time.
Boston, the
Damn
Boston
thing.
Tea Party, you know.
In jail. And he should
They were
be
impersonating Native Americans. That's a totally
accountable.
different deal.
And he wants to let them all
Yeah.
out.
These people
And now he says
were
that he loses
impersonating
again, since
Attila the Hun.
he is.
No. Thinking of the guy with
President Trump?
the Q shaman with
But
the
they wanted
horns.
to
the horns.
Yeah.
so
These were
it's-
Vikings, bro.
You ought to be
Yeah.
ashamed of yourself.
You
What
should be
have
ashamed
done,
of
how
yourself.
You've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done
Which is a
there
great city.
with the fires all over the
It's a
city.
great
If I didn't
city.
bring in the National Guard, that
No, it's
city would have
peaceful.
been
Fiery but
destroyed.
peaceful.
When you look at
Mostly
all
peaceful.
of the
Mostly peaceful.
they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that, they saw them coming, and they left.
What was that? What was
immediately.
that area called?
What he said about
The Chaz.
this whole
The
section
Chaz,
Chaz and the
is
Chop.
so off.
Yeah,
Peacefully
Chaz is
protected.
the-
One other thing,
Capitol Hill
Autonomous
Autonomous Zone.
Zone.
Chop was
Select
the
Committee,
Capitol Hill
which is
organized protest.
basically
That's
two
right.
horrible Republicans that are all gone
Burned all
now,
the
out of
police
office,
stations.
and Democrats, all Democrats.
Mostly peaceful, though.
They
Mostly peaceful.
destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a
Mm.
Republican did that, they'd go to
Thank
jail.
you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon. Is
Oh, there you go.
Oh, Ellen.
What he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted.
Hey, you can do
The
bingo
idea
on a
that they
diagonal,
didn't
right?
kill somebody, just
Oh, yeah.
went in and broke down
Oh,
doors.
I'm
broke
one
the
away.
windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots, come on.
Yeah.
When I asked him those first two debates,
that come on, man?
we had
Yeah,
first time
well,
around, I said,
come
"Will
on,
you
man.
denounce the Proud Boy?"
I'd give it to you.
No, I'll tell them to
I'll give you
stand
come
down.
on.
No, it was not a
The
come
idea
on,
he's
man.
refusing to-
Come on.
Will you denounce?
That's
these
not come on,
guys?
man.
Will you
Okay,
denounce
all
the
right.
people we're talking
Russell's
about now? Will
adjudicating.
you denounce the people who attack that?
Gotta
Wants
keep
to protect
this.
that one
What are you gonna
square.
No,
I'm gonna.
No, that would
give you
help me. I
just
minute, President
wanna
Trump,
win the
for a
right way.
follow-up question I
There you
have.
go, okay.
After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you
Oh, there we
would,
go.
quote,
34
have
counts.
every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the select committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level.
Say the
His
words,
son
say the
is
words.
convicted, going to
Say
be
the words.
convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo.
But you did say
We're
that.
not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion
feel like
unless
you
you
were
change
impeached
the
because of that.
prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system
Did
that was
nothing wrong.
rigged and disgusting. I did
Rigged.
nothing wrong.
Thank you,
Oh.
President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want
He
to respond?
never
Go ahead. I'll give you a minute.
mentioned Hunter by name. He
Yeah,
just
I
said
did.
your
No.
son, right?
That
No.
I
Okay.
did anything
Okay.
wrong.
He
relative
didn't say
to
perfectly
Hunter
innocent
Biden
either,
wages.
although.
It's simply a lie.
No,
Uh,
he's got to
Number
say it.
two, the
Yeah,
idea
yeah.
that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our
Says
history.
retribution is going to be success.
Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with. And think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things? Of
Wow.
Hey, dang, Joe.
While your wife
That
is
ain't
pregnant.
so.
I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
The
Rules of an
I didn't have
alley cat.
sex with a porn star. Number one. Number two, that was a case that was started
Come
and
on,
moved. They moved
man.
a high-ranking official at
I'll say
DOJ into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign.
That's
has
true,
ever
though.
taken
That's true.
Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of.
We got more
issues
we're
he has
coming
to
after
face.
him with.
I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has real
We're
problems.
going to keep
do the right
sending
thing, though.
more
Exactly.
cases, man.
Did you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Did you ever hear any
Oh, we're
president
still
say
on that.
I thought Hitler had some good ideas. What got me involved to run
Hitler had
first
some
place
good
after my
ideas.
son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The people,
Plenty of good
the
people
ones
on both
that-
sides.
The one that tried to stop it,
Both sides.
and the ones he said, I think they're fine people.
Fine
both
people on
sides."
both sides.
What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same?
I mean, can we at
anti-Semitic
least
bile,
agree that that's
carrying
taken so
swastikas
far out of
with fine
context
people?
that,
This is a guy who
I mean,
says
it's
who's done some
meaningless
good
at this
things.
point?
But it's,
I'd like to know
it's
what they are.
basically
Good
impossible,
things
Russ,
that were done. That's what he
to,
said.
to say
This
that
guy
or
has
blame
no
Biden
sense
for it
whatever
when
he does.
everything that Trump says
President Trump.
is literally out of
Do you
context.
know that, sir, has been totally wiped out? Because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on that, sir. He just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse.
He's been running his whole life.
President Biden?
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated. We saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back
That
with more
is
from the CNN.
powerful.
Good question. Good question. All right, gents. Well, now to our halftime show.
How did we not-
who we have?
how
We
did
have
we not take this
Beyonce
bingo
or
thing in round one. I don't get it.
I don't know. What are your thoughts, Dan?
Yeah. You go first.
Oh man, I hate going first. Simon Sinek always said you listen to everybody else in the room and then you go. But I'll go first. So my 2 cents is, God, this sucks to have to like choose between these two guys. I absolutely don't want to see Trump in there. Although I think it's always interesting. There's a part of me that's like, man, it would be nice to not see things as usual, but I'd rather see like a Mitt Romney in there than a Donald Trump. Bring Ross Perot back, and then you got freaking Biden.
Perot.
You know, but I'm going to say this, Russ. You made the comment earlier about the machine behind Biden. I mean, let's just be honest. You know, I mean, economically, inflation-wise, everything else. You know, I think the job he's done has actually been better than I think most people expected. I think it's been pretty good overall. But you know, it is the machine. You're not voting for Biden. You're voting for the people that surround him that get the shit done. So that's where my vote would go. Still.
He's still in the Biden camp. All right, so we got one person that's already made up his mind who he's going to vote for. So Russ, I know you've been on the fence for a long time about which one of these candidates.
Yeah. That's true. So I think America is done for.
You're not even being facetious. Okay, so this is
totally serious.
We haven't done the podcast to expound on this, but go
yeah.
for it.
So I think America is finished. Right. It's just sort of like we're going to be in this decline for a while till we lose our empire. I think that's going to happen fairly soon, and then at some point the U.S. will break up, and you'll have some regional balkanization, whatever. It'll be fine. If people worry about this stuff, it'll be fine. So I think the longer it takes for an empire to wind itself down, the more damage it does, generally speaking. So empire in late stages tends to do crazy stuff. I mean, look at the way the Ottoman Empire ended up, just as an example. So I'm kind of the sooner the better. You know, like let's go ahead and get it over with so that it can be replaced by the next thing that's better. And so I'm really looking at a candidate as like which one will do the most damage so that we can accelerate this process. And so I really am on the fence on this one. Like it was very easy in the last election cycle to vote for Trump as like the most disruptive candidate. But in this case, I don't know. Like I have a feeling with like the way the employment and inflation numbers keep getting revised. I think the true inflation amount is being hidden from most people as far as the official numbers. And so like if I'm thinking like, well, probably the quickest way to lose the empire is to hyperinflate the currency. I think Biden will hyperinflate the Biden administration. I should say, not him. He's not in charge of anything, but like Biden administration will hyperinflate the currency more quickly than the Trump administration will. So I don't know. I think he might earn my vote on that one. I don't know. We'll see.
But
your vote
is a reverse vote. You're voting for whoever's worse for the.
Yeah, I want to point that out to anybody that's listening. So you're saying you're basing your vote on who you think will damage the country faster.
Yes.
And in the near term. Yeah. Okay. So
yeah, they're both sides are going to damage it. It's sort of like, do you want to hold off the disaster a little bit longer, or go ahead and get it over with?
This is the Ray Dalio thing.
Halftime's over.
Here we go.
Came back real quick.
Causes, and Black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate.
We're gonna get some more bingo
of white
squares here.
Yep.
What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed?
One of my best friends used to be Black.
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress. Number one, The fact of the matter is there's more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're trying to provide housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among
What
these
about busing?
these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we
Yeah,
find
he was on the
that
wrong side of that one.
the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to childcare is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce black childcare costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for childcare costs. We got to make sure, because when you
It's
provide
very important. You need both parents working at all times. So we have to figure out a way to get the kids taken care of.
So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not.
I think I saw some statistic though that
You have
that
49
community
seconds left.
has
What do you say to
overwhelming number
black
of single
voters who are disappointed with the
parent
progress so far?
families.
I say I don't blame them.
Well, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like
Inflation
both.
That's why
It doesn't
child
matter
care
if you're.
badly. For
It doesn't matter if
example,
the parents are
I was
married.
of
They're
the
both in the
idea that
workforce.
any
Like
black
we need the
family,
highest amount of
first-time
productivity.
homebuyer should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who provided had to take out student loans that were ballooning. That if they
Baloney.
No, I thought you said ballooning.
Oh,
anything
I
having to do with
yeah, maybe you
loans.
did.
I thought it was
Baloney.
ballooning.
Paid
Baloney
their
better.
bills for 10 years on their student debt. All the rest is
I'm
forgiven.
still
after
upset that
10 years.
Malarkey wasn't on the
Millions
bingo
have
card.
benefited from that. And we're going to
Come
do a
on,
whole lot
man.
more
Come
for
on,
black
man.
families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right. It's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people.
Some of them,
They
I'm sure, are
can't
good people.
buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New Scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18,
Black
it
jobs.
could be 19,
Black
even
jobs
20
matter.
million people. They're taking black jobs and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you
Is
haven't
that
seen it
BJM?
yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our
Oh
history.
my
Thank you.
gosh.
President Biden.
BJM.
There was no inflation when I became president.
Yes.
You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. It provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who were in all communities, including
We do
minority
want to like
communities.
distinguish
We made sure
between
that they had health
pre-COVID
insurance.
Trump
We have covered
and
with the ACA
during
has
COVID
increased.
Trump.
I made sure
Of course.
Like pre-COVID Trump,
$8,000 per person.
we
per
did
family
have the lowest
get written off from
unemployment.
healthcare.
Inflation was
This guy
extremely
wants to
low, et
eliminate that.
cetera.
They tried 50 times. He wants to
So,
get rid of the ACA.
like, if we're just
again.
trying to get back
We're
to
gonna try
where we
again
were
finally.
under
We
Trump,
find
it's
ourselves in a
taken us
position
4
where
years under
the
Biden.
idea that we're
And
not
is that
doing
really an
it,
accomplishment? I don't know.
We put more police on the street than any
It's kind of weak to be
administration
like,
has.
oh my
He
gosh,
wants
the
to cut
unemployment
the
was so
cops.
high
We
when you
provide
left
for
office. It's like, well,
equity,
yeah, because
equity, and making sure
go.
people have a shot
Like,
to make it.
it wasn't
There's a lot
him.
going on, but in the
I don't
first
know.
instance,
It's a little
he
weird to
caused it
me.
by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
No.
Thank you.
Jesus.
Another persistent challenge is the
The way
climate
he handled it.
crisis.
Yeah.
2023 was
Remember,
the
it wasn't
hottest year
Fauci,
in
it wasn't
recorded
Birx,
history, and communities
wasn't any of those
across
people.
the
Hey,
country
you're
are
president,
confronting
though.
the
They didn't do
devastating
anything.
effects of extreme heat,
Pence was the
intensifying
COVID czar,
wildfires,
remember?
stronger hurricanes,
Don't
and
see anybody
rising
yelling
sea
at
levels.
Pence.
Former
Yeah.
President Trump, you've vowed to end
Trump
your
is good at
opponent's
blaming it on
climate
everybody else.
initiatives, but
Surprised he didn't
will
do
you
that.
take any
How have they
action
not said the
as
word
president
infrastructure
to
yet?
slow the
And how
climate
did Trump
crisis?
not brag
Let me
about
just
Oh,
go
public?
back to what he said about
We got climate
police.
crisis here. Hold on.
how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. almost every police
Donald
group.
J. Trump.
And what he's done
What's
to
the
the
J
black
stand for? John, right?
population is horrible, including the fact
Is
that
it?
for 10 years he called them
believe so.
super predators. We can't,
His
in
jobs.
American
Easier-
language, we can't forget
J for
that.
jobs.
Super predators was his name, and he called it
That's
to 'em,
true.
and they've taken great
Yeah, that
effects
is
at
true.
it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where
Him
I
and Kim
funded them, we
Kardashian.
got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim
I'm
Scott
going with
was
awkward
incredible. He
brag
did a
about
great
black
job.
voter
Great
support
senator
here.
from South Carolina.
Well, he hasn't said anyone
Came
supports
to
him.
me with the idea,
Yeah,
and it was a
I
great
have to
idea.
agree
It's
with
one of the
Russell.
most successful economic development acts ever in the country. Opportunity zones, and the biggest beneficiary are blacks, and that's why we have the best numbers with them in
Boom.
There it
maybe
is.
ever. They're saying ever. I read
Click.
this morning where ever the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for
Ford job.
Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
Man, that's a line right out of
President Trump. Will you take any action as president?
Bernie Sanders from
Slow the
about
climate
15 years
crisis.
ago.
So I want absolutely
miss Bernie.
immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air. And we had it. We had H2O. We
The
had
cleanest
the best numbers
H2O.
ever, and we were using
Water boy.
all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And
Ever.
my top environmental people gave me
They were the
that
best.
statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
They gave me the statistic
I don't
right
know
before I
where
walked
he's
on the
been.
stage.
The idea that anything he said is true. I passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. In history, we find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories.
What the hell are you talking about?
Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. You just have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that
I was kind of
he is
rambled a little bit.
claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water. He hadn't done a damn thing with the environment. He out of the Paris Peace Accord.
He didn't say water. He said H2O.
I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only
Oh, he
existential
thinks
threat to
clean
humanity
water is
is
the
climate
temperature
change.
of the
And
water.
he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo
Maybe
all
that's
that.
why it works in his house.
don't
Like the
get it.
colder
Paris
it is, the
Accord
cleaner it
going to
is.
cost us $1 trillion. And
Whoa.
Oh, put him back in.
China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was
True.
it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of
What
the
the
seniors.
hell?
What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in.
Like two
they
guys
want
on the
everybody-
playground.
And look,
I know you are, but what am I?
the biggest heart on the stage, I guarantee you that. And I want to take
I
care
did
of
that.
people.
What's
But
he
we're
talking
destroying
about?
our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals.
Come on,
and they're
man.
going to be taking over
Come on,
Social
man.
Security. He is destroying Social Security.
No, that is true though.
Medicare, and
Biden
Medicaid.
froze the Trump rule that lowered insulin.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything if we're not able to? The United States can't get us under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we continue to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people will learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that.
There's the link,
by
by
the
the way. I
way,
just posted
with
it if you
regard
want to
to
see.
prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one voluntarily. I make sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I'm proposing that everybody, they pay, the millionaires pay 1%. So
They're
no
not
one
getting their money in
not raise
wages.
the cost
Social
of
Security is a
Security
tax
to
on
anybody
wages.
under $400,000. After that, it began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing that 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program.
Yeah, I agree. It
So
is
you
a
still
tax
have
on
82
wages.
seconds left. Are
However,
there any
I don't
other
know that
measures
that's
you think
properly
that would be able
structured.
to help
If
keep
you're
Social
trying to
Security solvent,
fund
or
this,
just, just that one?
Sure.
Well,
But
that one enough.
you know, to look at me like, oh, it's like a
But
millionaire
basically,
loophole or something.
to
It's like
defeat the
there's no
stand.
loophole.
well, they
Because
just
he
don't. Yeah,
wants to-
They're just
investment
not
income.
getting
doesn't-
wages.
He thinks
Right.
there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare.
I want to meet the president that's going to
And if you look
get
at
rid of the
pro-
tax
program
on
put
every
forward
single
by
time our dollar
the
is
House
spent.
Republican caucus that he supports is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need.
I don't know.
to
I feel like
protect
I'm
our
getting a
seniors
lot of value
is
for the money I
ridiculous.
spend in taxes.
And by the way,
Public
my
schools are
paycheck
great
has
here
greater
in
healthcare coverage today
urban
than ever
Houston,
before.
and
on the
our
AC, as I
military is the
said,
pride of the
we're in a
world.
circumstance where
A
400,000
very efficient
people,
federal government.
40
great.
million people would not
Electricity
have
comes
insurance
on every time I
because
flip
of
the
a
switch.
pre-existing Condition.
Yep.
Only allows
My
them
tax
to have that
dollars at
insurance
work.
is
My
the
tax
fact
dollars at work.
that they in fact are.
I didn't realize your tax
ACA.
dollars were paying for your
And by
electricity.
the way, the other thing
I
is
get an electric
a
bill.
situation where
Yeah, well, that's
Gonna
the
move
other
to
tax.
Black communities.
You got to
I've
pay
raised
everybody. Everybody's got to get a piece of the
the
action.
amount of money for Pell Grants, another $8,000.
Now, let's face it, man. They didn't build that.
$70,000 a year are going to be able to get $15,000.
Oh, yeah, Obama.
Why have solar?
Yeah,
Why-
you remember that one?
That's good.
You didn't build that.
Thank you, President
Build
Biden.
it.
President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians
That is our business,
all
comrade.
my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen
lies
him
like a
look you in
rug.
the face. About so many other things too. And we mentioned.
And
the
when I say
laptop,
rug,
we
believe me, I
mentioned
know what I'm
Russia,
talking
Russia,
about.
Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social
Let's
Security,
stay on topic, buddy.
he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our
Yeah, but
country.
the topic's
and they're
not what's
putting
going to get him to
Social
win.
Security. They're
This
putting
is
him
what's
onto
going to get him to
Medicare,
win.
Medicaid. They're putting him in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens.
Well, he does have a point on the Medicaid thing. On the other hand,
unbelievable.
if they're
Veterans are living in the
earning
street,
a wage, then
and
they're
these people
contributing
are
to Social
living in
Security.
luxury
So that
hotels.
doesn't actually
He doesn't
work
know what
against you.
he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger.
And I will say
in
this,
our
dude,
country before.
Russ, about I saw the
President Biden?
link
The idea that veterans are
on
not
the
being taken care of, I
insulin,
told you
but
before. By
I
the
mean,
way, when I
Biden's
said
the
suck
first
on the
one that
said
actually
he
allowed
acknowledged
Medicare
that
to
and
negotiate drug
fired
rates
that
across the
general.
board, which it would
That
include
general
insulin.
got
So
fired
I think it's a
because
net
he's the one that
win
acknowledged that that's what he said.
It's one of
He's
those.
the one
It's one of
standing
those where
in
it's
for
like
drug
you can both,
buyers, anyway.
Number one.
you can
Number
both
two,
claim credit
the
on it.
idea that
Yeah.
we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world. The reason why we have the most successful economy in the world.
Low
We're doing
wages.
better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford.
Like, we'll just move
President
on.
Biden,
To bash on each other.
President Biden.
Okay,
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, nobody cares.
But the average
Yeah.
cost of child care
I have
in this
200
country has
people
risen
that
to more
signed
than
this piece of
$11,000
paper.
a year
Can I
per
just
child.
mention,
For many families,
so far,
the
it
cost
seems
of
like
childcare
the
for two
CNN
children
moderators
is
have done a
more
really
than
nice
their
job.
rent.
Like,
Yeah,
In your
Tapper's been real
second
good.
term,
It's
what
been
would you
very
do to make child
concise,
care
very
more affordable?
professional. Feel like everyone's got an equal
Because
time.
The
I
general
think
got
they've
fired
done
because he was no
really
good.
well, I think. So
And if
I
he
have to
said
agree with
that's
that
why he
100%.
But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him.
He's still going on
The
about
other
this.
thing
There are
is-
19 people that say I didn't say
He
that.
doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in
Probably
the history of
should've.
our country. He didn't fire. Did
man.
you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our
Question should
country
be,
is being
how many
destroyed
people
as
have
you and I
resigned
sit
from
up here and
administration?
waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders.
Like the size
He
of my.
wants
Oh,
our
never mind.
country to either be destroyed
hands.
or he wants to pick up
My
those
hands.
people
My hands.
as-
I very
Powerful
like.
hands.
And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance,
Russell,
of coming out of this.
that's your
rut.
guy.
No, he's
We probably
he's-
won't
he's-
have a
I
country
think he's
left
selling me
anymore.
on
That's
him.
how bad it is. He's the
He's
worst
pitching
in
your guy.
history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most
making a
admired
good
country
case.
in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing
Magnited
beyond the
States.
capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak.
Better than
No
Rome?
one wants to screw
Better than
around
Rome.
with us.
Yeah,
No
I don't
one.
know, man.
Better than
Rome,
Alexander the Great's
But
Rome
army?
was pretty
the
good.
idea that we're talking about.
tell you right
Rome
now.
was pretty good.
I wasn't joking.
We'll take
Look
out a
it up
Roman Sphinx with our
online.
military, no problem.
159 or 58
Also, I mean, I think
voted.
also the best of the best has to
Presidential
be
historians,
Genghis
they had
Khan's
meetings and they
military.
voted who's the
Oh,
worst president in
unbelievably
I
American
mean,
history. One
disciplined.
best to worst.
Like,
They said he was the worst in
They say
all
every
of
fifth human on the
American history.
planet is a
That's a
descendant of
fact.
Genghis
That's
Khan.
not conjecture. He
In
could
some
argue
way.
they're wrong, but that's what they
So
voted.
you take Genghis
The
Khan or you
Iranians
take
no
the
one did
300.
anything to deal with childcare.
Or they-
see, that's Spartan
Yeah,
military is
yeah.
also very fine.
Significantly increase the childcare tax
Yeah.
credit. We should
I don't know. We have
significantly
better
increase
tech.
the availability of women and men,
Yeah, better tech,
single parents to be
better
able to go back
uniforms
to
for
work,
sure,
and we should
And
and
encourage
better
businesses
healthcare.
to hold.
But do you have
Nah,
better
I watched
laws?
the 300. I like those
President Trump's
uniforms.
question
Just
was
kidding.
about what would you do to make childcare
Healthcare
more
at 300.
affordable
Just
with
chop his head off.
Just
He's
so you
done.
understand,
Yeah. You
we
might
have
think it's
Poland, we
madness,
have
but it's
other
actually
things
Sparta.
that they rate him the worst because
Did you
what
know
he's
that
done
movie
is
was
so
shot
bad.
in 60
And
days?
they rate me. I'll show you.
I believe that.
And they rate me one of
I
the
believe
best.
that. That's
okay?
Frank Miller, right? I mean, the
And
whole thing is
if
pretty
I'm
much
given
green screen,
another
right?
4 years,
Yeah.
I will be the
Whole thing.
best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever
Movie's
created an
excellent.
economy like us. Nobody ever
Follow
cut
Up was good,
taxes
too.
like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by
He's already
4
raised
times.
the price
He
of
wants the
groceries
Trump
4
tax
times. Now he's
cuts
going to raise your taxes
expire.
4 times.
So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our
Emily
country.
says that he insulted
The
a
worst
city already.
president in history
Did we
by
miss
far,
that?
and everybody
I didn't
knows
hear
it.
it.
Which city did he
President
insult?
Look, the fact of the
Yeah,
matter is,
Emily,
that
if you're
he's
still
done
listening,
wrong.
man,
Yeah,
He's
you got to post
increased
something.
he's
Of course, he
increased-
insulted
will
all of
increase
America. You know,
the,
America's in the trash
taxes
heap,
on middle class people.
but that doesn't really
I said
count.
I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming in the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food.
Oh,
and all the
I think
things
Emily
we
is
do.
talking about the comment about
Number two,
Portland
He's in a
being
situation where
burned, but
he talks about
that's
how he is.
Yeah, that's a
not
historical
raised-
photos
Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
He somehow
That's not really an insult.
Can't go with you on that one, Em.
By you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally
Sounds good
bankrupt
to
the
me.
country. You have the largest deficit of any president in America.
Will he lower my taxes?
Number
That's
two,
what I want to know.
you have not, in fact, made
Did
any
last time.
contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest
China.
trade deficit. China.
Oh, we already
China.
have-
Oh, we already have that one.
Thank you,
We're at the
President Biden.
highest. You lost
Thank you,
100%.
President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made
Bird
a top
flu.
priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And
I
for
thought it was
both
going to
of
be
you,
monkeypox.
the number
Wow.
of overdose deaths in this country has gone up.
Man, this
Under
bingo
your
card
term,
sucks.
it went up. Under your term, it
It
has gone
sucks.
up. Former President Trump,
It's
despite
rigged.
the efforts that both of you
It's
have made, more than
It's a rigged
100,000
bingo card.
Americans are dying from overdoses every year.
Did you hear about the
primarily from
Supreme Court
fentanyl and
decision on
other
this today?
opioids. What will
On
you
the
do to help
opioid deal?
Americans right now?
No, what's
in
the deal?
throes of
They're not going to
addiction
let the
who are
bankruptcy
struggling to
happen.
get treatment?
Well, they're not going to let the bankruptcy
There's no-
override the
We now have the
individual
largest
cases that are coming.
deficit
So,
in the history of our
so
country.
in other words,
That
it
was
doesn't
bad.
all fall
We
to
have the
the
largest deficit
uh,
with China. He gets
uh,
paid
company.
by China. He's
They
an
allow them to
Manchurian
be able to
candidate.
go
He
after
gets money
the
from China.
founders,
I think he's
the
afraid to
people
deal
that.
with us.
individually.
Oh,
You
interesting.
notice he never took
Wow.
out my tariffs because
Yeah,
we
the
bring in
class
so
action
much
suit.
money with the tariffs
Usually
that
they
I
say
impose
if you want to be part of it, you have to be part of the
Never
suit
took
or
it
not.
away
But
because it's
because of
too
the
much
bankruptcy,
money.
but in this case, they're going to let the
Tremendous. And we saved the steel
individuals
industries,
have
and
their
there
day
was
in
more
court.
to come, but he hasn't done
So
that.
they can either
But
join
he
the
hasn't
class
cut the
or they
tariffs
can
because he
proceed
can't,
individually.
because it's too much money.
Yeah.
But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country.
Nobody was addicted to
everywhere.
We've never
anything.
had before.
And then we had to get tough, and it was the drugs pouring across the
Reminds me
border
of
were
when I was at Liberty,
it
Jerry
started to
Falwell going on
increase. We got
TV.
great equipment.
None of the
We
students
bought
at
the
Liberty
City
drink
Ball. It's the
alcohol or
most
engage in
incredible
premarital sex.
thing that
Meanwhile,
you've
me
ever
and
seen. The
Walter
ladies
sitting on the couch
inspired.
laughing our
We did
butts
a
off
lot, and we were
while we were
getting
smoking
very low
cigars.
numbers,
What?
very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The
Interesting.
numbers. Have
So
you seen the numbers now?
is
It's not
Trump's
only the
view
18
here
million
that
people
the
that I believe is even
these
low
are
because
these
the
are deaths
gotaways,
deaths of
everybody talks
despair?
about gotaways,
Basically, if you give people
but the
economic
numbers of
opportunity and raise
the
the
amount of
costs of the
drugs and
drugs
human
through
trafficking in
limiting their
women
supply,
coming across our border, the
then
worst thing I've ever seen.
the
And
crisis is
numbers that
averted more or
nobody's ever
less.
seen under him because the border's so
I
bad.
don't.
I
I mean,
guess.
But
maybe.
the number of drugs coming across our
So
border
it's like
now is the largest we've ever had
the
by far.
demand side, like stop
President
the
Trump, thank you,
demand.
President Biden.
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl, these big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. A lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More
Oh,
fentanyl
more money.
machines, more be able to detect drugs.
He's got
more,
plenty of that.
more numbers
This pile of
of
money.
agents, more
Right.
numbers
This pile of
all
money.
at the border.
You are getting
And
plenty
when
of
we
that.
had that deal
Money.
done, he
Have
called
some
his
money, man.
Republican
Money.
colleagues said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically." No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming
Money.
down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans.
What they need to
in the
do is
throes of
regulate the
addiction right now,
cocaine
struggling
trade.
to get the treatment they need.
This does
Isn't this I think fentanyl's a great
The
way
engine
to
remained
get
in
people to stop
Mexico.
doing drugs
The engine
entirely.
catch and
It's
release.
like, well, no,
Big
it's
time.
catch and release in
you know, it's
Mexico.
just
I haven't
coke, whatever. It's
tested
like,
that.
well,
We
it
had
could be
so many
coke,
things that we had
or it
done,
could be
hard
fentanyl,
negotiations
and you
with
don't
Mexico
know.
to get it all for
So
nothing.
maybe you
It's
shouldn't
just like
snort
when you
that.
have a hostage.
It's
we
totally
always
fine.
pay
I got this from
$60
somebody I
million
trust,
for
though.
a every
Been
time
doing
there's
business
a
with this guy
hostage.
for weeks.
Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter. I think a good guy. And he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly.
Before I'm
as
even
soon
elected.
as I take office, before I take office, I said,
Yeah, see.
literally, as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago. But Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had two cases.
He's a
where
soft
he paid
touch.
$6 billion for 5
You
people.
tap Uncle Joe,
I
man,
got
for the money.
58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dan?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have.
I'm going to
about
throw this out for our folks that
President
are
Biden
listening in. I've got
meeting
some of
with
you guys texting me. If you guys want to get in the chats or comments, you got to
How do you
actually
address
probably log
concerns
into
about
the
your
Facebook.
Himadi's
ability to handle
directly
the
on
toughest
Facebook.
job in the
So
world
jump
Yeah.
from mine
well
to
into
Eric
your
Himadi. and you'll be able to actually
First
get
of
into
all,
comments.
I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that this
Reference age.
what I've done. Look, I've turned around
Yep.
a horrible
I
situation.
didn't have that one.
As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people.
Do you guys have someone
The
trips on
whole
your
idea
card?
of
Yes.
Yeah.
we used to have 40%
I
of the
feel like
market.
both of these guys have
We
been tripping
invented
the whole
those
debate.
chips.
I'm tripping listening to
I'm
him.
tripping listening to it.
To take jobs overseas and then bring home a product. So I went to South Korea.
I got to say, my card looks like it'd be a great card for this, but I can't believe they haven't said crooked. They haven't said rigged. Come on, man. How have they not mentioned infrastructure the whole time we've been on this call?
pay over $100,000.
I know, right?
I don't
need a
get it.
college degree for them.
Nobody
Dude, I've
said
got
drug test either.
semiconductors.
About $40 billion
Yeah.
already being invested
Yeah,
right now in the United States.
Jamie just said that
Significant
mushrooms
jobs
are amazing at
Americans
debate.
all
You know,
over-
I
from all over the
I
world.
bought some mushrooms
President
today
Biden,
at a
you have
gas
40
station.
seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
What?
They're selling
Yeah, I would.
psilocybin
The
over the
idea that
counter
somehow
at gas stations
We
now.
are this failing.
I have it right here.
Never heard of
No,
president-
In Texas?
we're
Dude,
the envy of the
right
world,
here in
maybe
Leander.
a single
They're not real.
major
Look,
country
yeah, they're-
so
president.
these
The
are
same place with the United States of
THC
America.
gummies
All our problems and all
that
our
I got
opportunities.
300
We're the most
milligrams
progressive country in
at a
the
gas
world.
station from
Everything's done.
Exxon.
We're the strongest country in the world.
And
We're a
this,
country in the world who
I had to
takes
buy them just because I was like,
and
I'm
everybody
just, it's like when you're 21, you have to buy the drink. You're like, right here, shrooms. Oh,
those who he
It's not
called
real.
us up to
1,500
Kim Jong
grams.
Un, we sent love letters to Putin, etc.
1,500
They don't
milligrams,
wanna
sorry,
screw around.
1,500 grams.
300 grand. Oh,
I'm going to
Former
prison.
President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2
I'm going to
tests,
take
got
Jamie
the
up on that. I'm going to eat
test,
some
and
shrooms right now.
both of them,
Let's
as you
see
know,
if this debate
were very
improves.
It's
public.
not-
He took
not
one.
on
I'd like to see
dude.
him take one, just one, a real easy one.
Not on
Like,
camera.
go through
What
the
are you
first
doing?
5 questions.
It's
I'm
legal.
just
He bought it
kidding.
at
I'm
Exxon.
just
Yeah, keep
kidding.
calling
I
it
bought it
Exxon.
at Exxon. Come on.
Physical exams every year,
Not on camera.
and you know, we knock on wood wherever we
Thanks,
lay our
Russ.
wood.
Yes, that's
That I'm in
brotherly
very good
love right
health. I
there.
just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships.
I do have to say this much. For Trump's age,
And you have to
if
be
you're
able to
if
hit
that's
the
a
ball
concern of
long
yours,
way.
like you
And I
wouldn't be
do it
concerned about him
listen
being
to it. He
president
can't hit a
because
ball
he's
50 yards.
so
It's
he's very
challenging.
articulate.
Magic. He can't hit a ball
Well, he
50
looks
He
very
yards.
sounds
sharp.
good when he was when he was 44. He sounds the
I
same as he
feel
does
that
right
I'm
now.
as in
Dude,
good
he's
shape
running
as I
circles
was
around Biden. I mean,
25,
this, he
30
just
years ago.
he
Actually,
looks
I'm probably
terrible.
a little bit lighter.
And look
but
at the
I'm
intensity
as
in
good
his
a shape
eyes
as I was
compared to Biden.
years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same.
Biden's got
I was willing to
no
take
muscle.
the test. And
You're almost
you know
looking
what?
at
If I
his
didn't do well, I
exact
answered
skull with just a
Dr.
piece of
Ronnie
skin over it.
Cox,
There's no
who's
meat under there.
great when he
Right.
was White House
Reminds me of
Chairman,
that
and then I
George
took
Bush
another one, a
Senior
similar one.
moment when he was debating
And
Clinton. And he just like
both of them
looked
said
down at
they've
his
never
watch,
seen
like, how much
anybody
longer do I have
as
to be out here?
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's.
I don't know. I don't know what he's
Just take
talking
a
about.
look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving.
You know, it's
contest.
really funny Biden talking
We
about
got my
people
handicap
embellishing
when I was
themselves.
vice president down to a 6. And by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. You can do it.
Oh, is he going to challenge him to a push-up
He's the 6th
competition?
handicap of all.
I was at 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
What are they talking about?
I've seen
Golf
this one, that
handicaps?
one.
Yep.
You got my handicap down to a 6.
President Trump,
Get out of here.
Let's not act like children.
Let's stop acting like children.
that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were
Yeah,
ushered
did you
in
see
by
the
the
crowd
police.
pictures?
And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility,
Unreal.
not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be.
Uh-oh.
I think we lost Eric for good, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we lost Eric. Oh, there we go.
His political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane.
Russ, I feel like we've got a bingo question coming up right now.
And we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China.
Let's be real. He can't drive anywhere.
Hey, this is a WTF anecdote right here.
They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
Why is World War III not on my card?
Let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is attack on all. A required response.
Said that before.
The idea.
Repeating himself.
I can't think of a
Don't hit that.
leader in the
They
world
push,
who wouldn't trade
the
places
wrong
like
track
the job
number.
I've done, what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful peace because of the people.
It's like a Woody doll with the string in the back.
I have a snake in my boot.
And right now,
I want to be your friend.
We're needed to
Someone poisoned the wall.
And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary.
That's right.
Biden
is holding Putin back from attacking the United States.
I just need him to say more words on my card here.
For a follow-up, the question was, will you accept
Emily.
the results of this election,
Emily said I was doing
regardless
shrooms
of
off
who
camera.
Just to finish what he said, if I might. Russia. They took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden.
Obama! Click the button.
Nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from Trump. Me. But now he's going to take
except my dignity
from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you asked me a question before, would you do this with, he's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so
That's
sad.
True. They're pulling people off of buses now. Like, you look like you could hold a gun.
With the
Send them to the front.
domes that are 1,000
Ukrainians?
years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked.
President Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these.
If
the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely. There's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that.
It'd be great if I could.
Then I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else in a nice location.
So I thought I might end up in jail.
And again, no indictments. No political opponent stuff.
How long do you think it is when he gets into office?
But unfortunately,
before
it's
he
driven up my numbers
pardons
and
himself?
driven them up to a very high level because the people understand.
He doesn't have to. He can just wind down the DOJ investigations. Like, hey, no need to investigate that anymore.
Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued. You appealed and appealed. The court
Might need to pardon himself from that those 34 felony counts.
Single court in America
legally own a gun.
Said any of your claims had any merit.
No, he can't. Florida allows it since it's a nonviolent.
Oh yeah, so there you go.
Continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this
Oh, is he Florida resident now, not New York?
Stealing.
Yeah.
There's no evidence of that at all.
Mar-a-Lago.
And I'll tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea if you lose again, you accepted anything. You can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
Something snapped.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential
She's like, kill me
debate.
now. It's your face. She's like,
Yeah.
I can't
Do you
believe
think
they
they chat
made
with
me
each
do
other in
this.
between? Like during these little breaks, do you think they say a word to
They
each
can't
other?
talk to each other. Not allowed to talk to each other. No one's allowed to come talk to them. They can kind of make some notes, change some stuff up, but they got to just stand there silently.
Stand there silently.
They can talk to each other. They just can't go kibitz with their staff. is
They're
what I
allowed
would-
to. I thought they weren't allowed to say anything.
Oh,
I think if
Maybe-
that
maybe
rule
you're right.
applies,
I don't
it's just to take away the discomfort of them actually not talking to each other.
right. No, we're not allowed. So
Uh,
they won't
Right.
let me. They won't let me.
Not
They
if
won't let me.
you
They won't let me talk.
Yeah. Did you
I
guys
would.
talk?
I mean, nothing,
Did you guys
nothing would
chat
please me
while on
more.
stage?
But
We're not allowed to.
Yeah.
what's that, Dan?
Yeah. Did you guys talk on stage together? No, we weren't allowed to.
We weren't allowed to. Yeah.
It is an interesting question. I know you mentioned the if thing, as far as like whether or not you accept. Do you guys think that any challenge to an election is inherently anti-democratic?
No.
No.
Okay, so like if there was, reasonable evidence of foul play or some really strange stuff going on, like say a county shows up with more votes than are registered voters, it's like, well, that's weird.
I think. Well, I think.
How
I
did
think more
that
than,
happen?
I
Like
think-
maybe we should.
I think
look
more
into
than that. I think that like we pretty much entered the era. I mean, really since 2000 of I mean,
Ballots.
unless it's an overwhelm. Yeah. I mean, why would you not try to find some kind of irregularity to cause some trouble over? I think is basically where we're at.
So
And I also think the dynamic now, like, I mean, I think, what did I read the other day? I think like 5 or 6 states basically are going to decide the entire election. That literally, I mean, here we are in Texas. I know we've got people watching from all over the place, but I mean, like, it's unless you live in one of these swing, counties, even really, like your vote is meaningless.
well, I think what we're like I found like the election denial stuff to be kind of weird and sort of one-sided when applied to Trump. Maybe it's because of the whole, insurrection or something, but like the Stacey Abrams still says that she was the legitimate winner of the Georgia gubernatorial race. Hillary
Yeah.
Clinton just a few months ago said that the 2016 election was stolen. Like it seems like it's just normal to say that, but no one says that. Will you pledge to accept?
But I will say, I mean, there's a big difference in that Trump. They had this fake elector scheme going. They had this disruption plan. I mean, all that was needed was for Pence to do his job and deny the vote happening, delay the proceeding, which is what they were pressuring him to do. And they could have thrown the election into the House of Representatives to elect Trump constitutionally. And yeah, so like that there's never been any kind of effort like that and that is, I mean, I don't know how much you want to say the will of the people is involved in anything, considering we literally are down to like 5 swing states. The will of the people seems literally irrelevant anyway. But I mean, that would be the last vestige of it. Like, hey, you know what? All the votes that you guys did, completely meaningless. The House of Representatives going to elect. Yeah,
it's
I mean,
close
at least
enough.
Maybe that
close enough that it goes to the House.
That would definitely expose to people that you are not in control of your government, if they don't already know.
If they don't,
Yeah. Well, that's why you don't want to do that. Is that people will be like, wait a second, I thought.
Wait a minute. So I'm literally not even.
Yeah, your vote doesn't matter. Sorry.
Closing statements as
closing statements. Okay, here we go.
Coin toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden.
Okay, let me get some more words here. I need a bingo.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes and will not. And if I'm reelected, that will be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for the us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big.
What the hell
pharma
was I
companies.
saying?
Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400.
I'll give you 3
No
to
more
1.
than
MSNBC
$2,000
says that Biden
for
seems
every
strong.
senior, no
And
matter what
they had
how
a
much
wonderful leadership.
they need.
No
You know what
bet.
that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10
They
years.
should have given them the
Because
same
government put up
5-hour
$5
energy that they gave them on the
I'm going to make that available
State of
to
the Union.
every senior.
State of the Union. Yeah.
All along.
They
It's
just need the
happening
red
Jacked
lights
up on
behind them.
Mountain Dew.
everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care.
He was strong that day, man. He was sharp.
Credits people have for child care. I'm going to make
He's
sure
like the
we do
guy in the
something about
PG-13
what
movie.
we're doing
Everybody's
on
really hoping
lead
makes it
pipes and
happen.
all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down
Swingers.
inflation and
Yeah.
give people a break.
Did we still not get
President
the word
Biden,
infrastructure?
Trump, you
How
now
did we
have
go
2
through this
minutes
whole
for
thing
your
and no
closing statement.
infrastructure?
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do, all he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan.
Fools.
We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like.
Never seen anything like
from
this
a
before.
medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're
We injected
terminally
bleach
ill.
into our
Now you
skins.
can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves.
I'm going to give him
and
good
they're
points on
living,
that
and
one.
that's why
That
it had
is
the highest
100%
approval
accurate.
rating in the history of the VA. So all of these
It's a
things,
big
we're
deal
a
for
failing
soldiers.
nation, but
Yeah.
it's not going to be failing
sort of
anymore. We're going to make it great
Stuck
again.
in the VA.
Thank you, former
Yeah,
President
that's a big
Trump,
deal.
President Biden.
That's it. We're done.
Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts
Yeah, I don't think.
now.
Yeah, we don't need to listen to them. You got us.
All right. So thoughts. I mean, should we do like winners and losers on this? I did
Sure.
not win bingo, so I feel like a loser here.
I did not either, man.
I was missing. So here's how if he had said Hunter Biden by name, if he had said semiconductors, if someone had tripped, or if there was some mention of a drug test, or if any of them said the word crooked, I would have won.
Yeah, you were way closer than me.
I'm the same as you, Russ. I would have won on crooked, a non-existent person or place, come on man, or drug tests. I would have
Whoa.
taken.
Didn't he mention a non-existent person or place at some point?
I said yes, but you guys voted me down. So
I'm going to go with that. Eric, I like what you thought. Yeah, let's go with that.
Okay, because I have it. So here's the thing: I have it marked on mine. So you guys should both have it marked as well.
Okay, well then, Dan, you win.
I got a bingo.
All
Danny wins. All right.
Ta-da! See,
As our winner, you get to decide who is president.
Hey, well, do you have any thoughts about the debate? Like, how was their performance? Would you think it made a difference?
I think that if you're coming into this debate and you are not really overly knowledgeable, right? Like, let's say that you just, you've got to pick a candidate. You know some stuff about Trump. You know some stuff about Biden, whatever. I think if you're looking at it from that perspective, I think Trump wins. And the reason I say that is because Trump looked better. He presented better. It reminded me of the Nixon JFK, when JFK wore makeup, right? Well, Trump's makeup was his energy. He looked, Biden looked pasty and white and old and was not sharp and stuttered and stumbled. So I think if you're coming from that perspective, I think Trump wins. I think if you are knowledgeable and you understand really even basically a lot of the things that were talked about, I think you look at it and you go, well, Trump was full of shit on most of what he said. There were some things he said that were powerful. He made some really good points, but I think overall he was just full of shit and he was just a sales guy up there. And so I think from content, I got to give it to Biden, very honestly. But I unfortunately, I think that our electorate more would if we polled it today, I think Trump wins that debate.
You know, I think one of the advantages that Trump has is the short memory kind of thing. So people are sort of the problems they're facing today are right there in their face. And if you're able to say, well, it's this guy that, when I was in office, we didn't have this problem. This guy started that problem. And you say, well, yeah, I mean, there were these other problems that are under, when I was in office, but we're not going to talk about that because those are so far in the past that, are they still relevant to you? Are they still occupying your mind space? And I think that is I think that's maybe a stronger advantage than we might give it credit for.
It's a huge advantage. I mean, like it reminds me of those old Bible stories about when Moses freed the slaves, and the Israelites are like, every time they come up with a challenge, like they run out of this or that or the other thing, and it's like, wow, we wish we were back in Egypt. We had food, we had place to sleep, we had warm beds, and it's like you were slaves, but they don't.
Was the ones like, yeah, you and God led us out in the desert to kill us, and they're like, really?
What? Yeah. So
That's your interpretation.
I think you're right on. I mean, without a doubt, Trump wins the debate. I don't see how you can even. I mean, I'm sure they will. I'm eager to hear what Morning Joe says about it in the morning. Like
Joe is very strong.
Biden hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I mean, and the thing is the article that you sent over earlier today, Dan, I'll send it to you too. But where they break down, because I had been very confused is the right word, but just there's a dissonance between look at all these economic metrics that are excellent, and yet it doesn't translate. People, the economy is the worst it's ever been, et cetera, and we got to get out of this and da-da-da. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like this is up, this is good, this is good. And dude, your point earlier was just great. You're like, so this is not the scientific breakdown, Dan, but the idea is like, okay, look, if it cost you $10 to eat a cheeseburger, 4 years ago, and today it costs you $15 to eat the same cheeseburger, right? Did you up your food consumption by 50%? No, you're just paying more for the same thing, right? And so
if you look at fast food sales, they're up 50%.
Right. And GDP and all this stuff, that all those numbers are like through the roof because, look at the economy's expanding. It's like, no, the economy's not expanding. We're paying more money for the same stuff. And in fact, if you nominalize the numbers accounting for those curves, like we're actually down in all these metrics, which is why like the average person who's going to the grocery store buying food. I mean, like I put myself in that category. I go buy food. I mean, like our food bill is way up, our electric bill is way up. Everything's way up, right? Interest rates are up, which means my mortgage payment is way up. All these different things are like through the roof. And so therefore, well, what are you talking about? Like, the economy is doing great. It's like John McCain saying the fundamentals of our economy are strong in the middle of this like meltdown that's happening, right? And everybody's like, well, dude, you're clueless. Like, what are you talking about? And I think that is a big problem for them. And, there's a lot that they can, and Russ, you and I talked about this. And I mean, Biden's got a lot to sell. All the things that he's talking about in terms of like the stuff that they did for the military, the new money they put into all these different initiatives, and people are obviously benefiting from that. And it's just like, dude, I mean, why are you not out selling and pitching that? Right? Instead, you're pointing at these results like, look, we're winning. It's like, dude, you're not winning. You are making investments and things are still really tough. And you just tell people the truth, and they're just incapable of doing it. They're the worst salespeople I've ever seen in my life. And they're up against, Trump, who, I mean, I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine earlier today who's like huge. Well, in fact, he's watching a minute ago. Dave and I were pinging back and forth, and he'd sent me some meme about Biden, basically, and I'm like, I don't know why they keep like playing expectations down on Biden. Like, I mean, you should be playing it up. Like, oh, he's been in politics forever. He knows everything. Like, I hope we survive. But
let's watch the great man.
Right,
work.
and instead
Yeah.
it's like, oh, hopefully he doesn't have to poop his diaper. And it's like, bro, like, I mean, as long as he stands on stage and doesn't like fall over, like he's gonna win based on how you guys set the bar so low. But I'm like, dude, it's crazy to me that the Republicans go out and nominate this guy who, yes, he's got some things to brag about. He's also got a lot of crap that is garbage, and most of which was not addressed or characterized badly. And why would you put this guy up again? You had all these great people running just a few months ago. Any of them would have beaten Joe Biden. I mean, easily. Any of them. I mean, this is the only guy that can conceivably lose to Biden. But
defend my Republican friends on this one. I don't know that they had a better. Well, I'm just thinking. I don't know that they had a better choice. So, like each of the, say the great candidates, right? So, Nikki Haley, not a huge likability score on her, and then also, very close ties to the military-industrial complex. It's kind of establishment.
These are things that you could pick. I mean, like I can put Trump on paper and say, dude, I mean, this scandal, double impeachment, blah, blah, so like it's the same thing with Schwarzenegger, like running for governor. It's like, like if he did not run during that recall, he never would have been governor because there was no way he could have made it through a primary, and yet, I mean, by any metric, I mean, most people look back on that governor. He did a great job. He was great governor, great job. Like, not that he did everything perfect. I mean, did a good job, but he couldn't get there through this process. I'm just saying the process is not beneficial to pulling out good candidates.
Well, so here's what I mean, right? So the Republican base, from what I can tell, is very energized by the idea of basically undoing everything that Biden's doing now.
Sure. That was a big thing during Obama. Yeah.
Right. Like whatever, like there's a lot of project. I remember Chris Christie in 2016 was part of the transition team, Trump's transition team. And he had like a package, like the first 100 days package.
Repeal all this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Almost all of it was administrative, signing these orders to undo as much of the Obama presidency as absolutely possible. And of course, all of those got tied up in the courts, and there was all these injunctions. So like what should have taken, a few days wound up taking the entire 4 years of like working all this stuff out through the legal system. So Biden, if you notice, first thing he does when he gets into office is sign a bunch of stuff undoing what Trump does. He has a more favorable legal scenario. You don't have as many people that are willing to do nationwide injunctions against these policies. So it kind of worked out a little better. So the next person that comes in, I mean, does anyone really think that like DeSantis, as good as he is in Florida, and when I can tell, very popular, very successful governor there, won by an enormous margin when he got his reelection, is he going to go in and undo everything that Biden does, fire people and yell at people and, force them to quit and do all this other stuff? No. Right. Haley wouldn't. Haley would continue pretty much all of Biden's policies, but, with a little bit of Republican family values flair to it, nothing would have changed. And so like, if they had another candidate that was going to go in and like, push the eject button, or pull someone's parachute cord, like you're out,
right?
You're done.
Card. Yeah.
And they're just not going to have that. And not only that, but there was also, I think, this concern that whoever was going to be nominated was going to be dragged through basically the most hellish process that you could imagine. Like the stuff, where Romney's words were taken out of context a whole bunch, the binders full of women. It's like, well, that's going to be child's play. Like there's going to be there's going to be reports about all sorts of stuff. There's going to be, and some of it's going to be made up. It doesn't matter, right? Because it doesn't matter anymore if stuff's made up or real.
But the
Yeah.
logic is, well,
It
Trump.
doesn't matter if you're Donald Trump. If you're Teflon Don,
Right.
it doesn't matter.
Well,
That's his point, is that,
That's
well,
the-
let's
yeah.
nominate this guy because he's already had the kitchen sink thrown at him, and
well,
it's all baked in.
what is I can't remember the guy's name in the Dickens novel. Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, someone tells him, it's like, I'm going to slander you, basically blackmails him. And he says, well, you can't stain a black coat. Right? Like, oh, okay. You know, it turns out, oh, we've there's a new indictment. Like, it's Trump, yeah,
Right.
new indictment, whatever. Who cares, you know? And no other candidate would be able to do that. And so he's sort of strategically unique in that regard. So I
Yeah.
think that is something that the Republican voters weighed, and it makes more sense than it looks like from the outside.
And I
Well,
think
we shall see, man.
Russ is right on this, I believe. I think Eric, like, I don't know that any other person that ran on the primary ticket in the general, I don't think would have beat Biden. I think you really had to get Trump in there, just because of all those reasons. But I think that anybody would have been better? You know, I mean, there's a difference between who can win and who you think is a better candidate, right?
Like, who would make a better president, you mean?
100%. Yeah. I get you. So you guys actually think that Trump, out of any Republican, has the best chance to beat Biden? You think that's how good Biden and his team are? That just anybody else would lose?
Well, you have to remember, he's the most popular president in history.
In history, that's right. Yeah.
81 million votes. More people voted for Biden than voted for Obama.
Yeah.
So if you were ever wondering, like, you know, the
There's
student
more.
becomes
There
the
are
master.
more people in America, but I mean, you know,
More votes. More people voted for Biden than voted for probably anything else ever.
except for Trump.
No.
Trump's actually the second most
Trump.
popular
Yeah, Trump got more votes than Obama as
than
well.
Obama.
Yeah, that's true. But what I'm saying, though, is that
Who thinks that makes any sense?
Trump was an incredibly popular president, so it would take
Yeah,
the most
incredibly
popular
popular.
president of all time,
so
to
much
beat him.
support.
which was Biden. So,
But Trump is also, let's just make it clear, Trump has never won the popular vote ever. He's only won the electoral.
correct.
That's all you
have
need,
to be
baby.
You have to be popular in the right places.
That's right.
Right.
That's the
That
lesson.
is right. That's right.
You got to give it up for him. This goes back to tonight's show. You know, he's a sales guy. I love the speech. You guys have probably both heard Barbara Corcoran talk about when he was talking to the real estate investors that were looking at buying, I think, the Plaza Hotel, and he ended up selling them instead on the New York waterfront. And Corcoran talks about how he just absolutely owned the room, and he wasn't even talking about what he was supposed to be talking about, but it ended up closing like one of the biggest real estate deals ever. It's really interesting if you watch it. And that's basically what he did tonight. I mean, to everything that you guys both spoke about, every word he talked about was things that would sell a voter that was looking, that would have been undecided. Whereas Biden was either back on his heels, and not that he was supposed to be. I mean, I think that Trump, most of what he said, he was just full of crap. But he was full of crap in a way that could sway an undecided voter, and that's the whole point.
And that's the game, man. That's the game.
That's the game.
Yep.
That's
All right. So a week from now, we'll start getting some poll results. Do you think that this? Does anyone want to like put any? Not a bet, but like, does anyone have a prediction as far as what the poll numbers? I'm on my view is that will have no change.
He'll be 3 points above Biden. So
a +3 for Trump, you think?
I don't know if it's +3 because I don't know where they're at, but I think that we'll look at it.
Biden is ahead right now by 0.5 percentage point, if you believe that, which I don't. But
then I think
it's the first time he's been ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so +2.5.
Well, no, he said 3.5.
+3.5.
Oh, okay, +3.5. Okay, so Trump will go up 3.5. Eric, what about you?
I would be surprised if Trump doesn't get a bump out of this, because I mean I think he had two things to do. One is to make his case and pitch undecided voters, which I think he did. He hit the right notes that he needed to hit to get people that might be on the fence. But the second thing is he needed to present as safe and I think he did that in a big way. Like for people who don't have long memories, he sounded very reasonable. He sounded very, he was not off the rails in any way. He was dialed in, man. So took his Adderall and stayed on topic. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll find out in a week. It should be interesting.
Dan, thank you for joining us, dude. This was fun, man.
You guys are awesome. This is great. It's a great way to spend my night in San Antonio with you guys.
Right on, babe.
Could be worse.
Right, well, it could be worse. That's right, man. Could be worse. And actually, that's one of my favorite mottos the last couple of years is, hey, look, you've got it great, no matter what is going on, because there's so many examples of people that have it way worse. So,
hey, shout out to John. Hey, shout out to John and Jamie, Emily, and everybody else that threw in their 2 cents. I think we
Michelle.
Yeah, Richard was on there, and Michelle. Thank you, all you guys, for throwing out your 2 cents and the support. That's been fun.
Yeah.
Just don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button.
Smash that like and subscribe.
If you like this video, you know what to do.
I thought we were on Facebook. If we're on YouTube, that's awesome.
Yeah, we are too on YouTube. Yep, you bet.
Put a little heart on there.
All right, guys. I won't even say it.